Hi, my name's Baylee with Harvest Helper. I'm here today with Tony from Northwest Pearl. Tony's the owner of a successful brand here in Washington State, so he agreed to sit down with me today and answer some questions about how to thrive in the current green rush market. Tony, with dropping prices being hard enough to deal with, how do you navigate your long-term business plan to prepare for big business?
First of all, Baylee, it's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Well, this is a new market. It's not mature, and prices were high, and then taxes came in, and then prices are dropping as more competition came in. You have to have the ability to adapt in the market and survive at the same time. And that takes there are a lot of factors involved in that. So one of them is survival and adjust your learning curve. And the longer you're in the business, the tighter your facility will be.
Right. Okay, great. Next question I have for you. This has been slightly up for debate depending on who I ask. So I'm going to ask you, is cannabis a commodity, Tony?
Okay, so that's a good question, and I'm glad we're talking about that. I've been thinking a lot about that. The price of oil today is the 69 bucks a barrel. So the definition of commodity is a raw material or primary agricultural product that can be bought or sold, such as coffee or copper. And it's curious that they use those two, coffee or copper, and it's because there are widely accepted, traded legally, internationally, and in my opinion, cannabis has been around forever, and hemp as well, except it's not legal everywhere. And as the trend moves forward, that's how it's going to happen. Markets have already been created, even on the financial markets that are tracking this industry. And as we get closer and closer to legalization and acceptance, it will be traded as a commodity. And frankly, it currently is. Thus, your first question about prices. Prices as commodities are a function of supply and demand.
Right. And so right now, what you're telling me is in Washington State, there's most likely an oversupply.
That's one thing. There's an oversupply, and also there is a lack of regulation for the industry in some specific areas. For example, I'm just going to use the same parallel with the oil companies as a commodity. Big oil used to be unregulated. The big companies can control the price, drop the price, force everybody out, and then control the price and raise them. So yes, there is an oversupply, but there's also a function of regulation that specifically affects the industry and the players within the industry.
But there can be overregulation.
Sure, so, you don't want to get me started on that.
So we know there is some aspects of overregulation.
Sure.
But where the regulation isn't coming into play, where would you see that in production? Canopy space is what I'm trying to say.
Canopy space, the LCB is still trying to figure that out. In fact, we just received rules change yesterday, and the LCB was trying to explain the canopy space, and from my vantage and the vantage of many producer processors, really didn't make any sense, because the LCB doesn't actually have a farmer or a grower producer processor working within the system
to understand the way canopies work.
That's exactly right.
All right, and just for the viewers to know, the LCB here in Washington State is our Liquor and Cannabis Commission. So they're the regulators of the industry as well as alcohol here,
which
in
are being
Washington
duplicated across the country.
Correct.
In both municipalities and statewide, and ultimately on the national level.
All right, Tony, how do you, or Northwest Pearl in general as a whole, how do you stay ahead of the curve?
Well, I'll put this on an industry level because it applies to us. You have to have R&D. So for our vantage, we had a robust seed bank, and it took us a while to bring that in. Initially, we had certain strains that we brought in, and everybody had a lot of those strains, and some people didn't have the strains that we had. But then it took...
To explain that further really quick, sorry for the viewers, here in Washington State, they had a window of bringing in strains as far as seeds or clones. After that window was closed, they weren't allowed to bring anything else in unless they were trading within the state of Washington, other licensed players.
However, you could have a seed bank of as many seeds that you can. The issue is it takes time to develop those clones, and then the mothers, and then to figure out which ones were good, which ones were bad, which ones were most productive, which ones were very interesting. And that's what we took the last 15 months to do that. In fact, we had to sacrifice one of our grow rooms to be able to do that, but it's been beneficial for us.
And that's actually, I'm going to interrupt you really quick, that's a huge sacrifice, because here in Washington, under their license, they're allotted a certain amount of canopy space. So when you're taking that space out of production for research and development, you're literally taking money right out of your pocket.
Quantify that.
Exactly. So that's taking a hit for the better of the industry and the better of your brand.
Which is what R&D is about. You have to reinvest into your business. So that's number one. Number two, more efficient lighting. So 4 years ago when we started, there were specific lighting. Now the lighting is getting much more efficient. In Washington State, though, the problem is different counties have different benefits as far as rebates for lighting. In Mason County, we can't get rebates, but in other counties you can. So we're just trying to figure that one out. But the third thing, automation, is key, because not only does it reduce labor, but more importantly, it reduces errors and human intervention. So we have a few rooms right now that are automated, and every time I hear the little machines go deet, deet, deet. Yesterday I told Billy, I said, that's the sound of money right there. It's really money being saved, and also errors going down as far as nutrients go into your reserves. Everything flows right into your dosage
being able to follow an SOP, which is really hard. You can make it, but can they follow it?
Don't tell me to follow an SOP.
Me neither. I don't really.
The one important thing about learning curve is we recognize that you have to have capital because you have to grow to survive. And I don't mean just grow marijuana or cannabis, rather. You have to grow your business. And capital is a key. If I had to do this all over again, I would have started with 3 times as much as we had, because that would have put us in the higher echelons of what we did. However, the ability to raise capital is an important function of the growth of your business.
Right. I can see a challenge in small businesses that have entered this running out of that money when the prices are dropping. They didn't start with enough running capital, not only to grow, but to tread water while other people are falling off while prices are stabilizing. Because when prices are dropping, you may want to cut back on things like marketing or other things that you might normally spend a bunch of money on,
which is like cutting back on drinking water.
Right.
The marketing thing, the marketing is such an important factor. Marketing, packaging, all the things that weren't really that important 4 years ago, but as the industry is maturing, or growing and maturing, then you have to distinguish yourself from other firms, and in order to attract capital, if that's what we're talking about.
Okay, so somebody that has a history in oil and coffee and Wall Street, do you see a difference now with the incorporation of social media at such a high level of more affordable marketing options to grow your company with versus other industries?
Social media is still a problem with us. A retailer called me yesterday, and they had one of their social media accounts closed.
Yep.
And it's a
big problem.
I actually asked her today exactly what you had. What did you have? Did you have prices? No. Did you have this? No. Just a picture of our product, frankly. It was a great picture. The rosin, so beautiful. So and nice and amber color, just beautiful. And so she couldn't understand it. Oil doesn't have that problem, or other commodities don't have that problem, because people don't view them the same. Social media is huge to market what we do. However, there's due to the regulations, the federal level regulations, it's cumbersome.
Okay. All right. So, Northwest Pearl Marketing, what has the best return for you?
Our Instagram page is
Instagram,
killer.
yeah.
Billy gets on there and he's got lots of followers, and people can see him grow, and people can see him make those big balls of rosin, that we do, and it's really cool. And we're working on other things right now. And also our Jeffrey's Stroke the Fairy Wall.
Yep.
Everybody loves it. Everybody
Yep.
wants a hat, a sweatshirt.
Poster in their store.
Yeah, everybody wants one, and it's pretty cool. And that will be our ability to take this on the national level, part of that marketing.
All right.
And the last thing I want to say, as far as the learning curve goes, is, we used to be all soil based, and then we gradually moved and are moving to other mediums. I mean, it's already happened. So recyclable mediums, frankly, that we could use more than once. And for us, that's super important, not just for reducing costs, but for the environment.
Sustainability. All right, Tony, is Northwest Pearl prepared to compete at a national level, or do you even want to?
Okay.
If the floodgates opened, Jeff Sessions all of a sudden woke up and decided he liked weed.
Okay, number one, Jeff Sessions won't wake up. But we are prepared to compete on a national level, and that's what we want to do, would like to do. We have a couple products that are ready to go. It's a very interesting market on the national level because it's moving quickly. So alliances are being created, even in the state of Washington, even the last few months, and business partnerships are being created, and that is where we're heading on the national level. Yes.
Okay.
Oh wait, can I go on?
Yes,
Okay,
go on.
so I was playing soccer last night. There was a guy up from Sacramento playing, and I knew him, but he lives in Sacramento. He's here as a consulting. He said, "Hey, what do you do?" "Hey, I grow pot." I'm not afraid to say that anymore, right? And he says, "Oh, I have a buddy, he's a big farmer up in the foothills north of Sacramento." I'm like, and last night I was thinking, well, there you go. These are how alliances. I said, "What does he do with it?" "Oh, he grows it, packs it all up, ships it down to Southern California in a big old truck," right? So, and my next question is, oh, he doesn't process it. No, he doesn't have the capability to do that. And in my head, I was thinking, there you go. There's a relationship and an alliance that we have the know-how to process, and he just grows. So that's how this is going to go down.
Awesome. Beautiful. So, really quick before you dove into that, include for viewers how many came into this game in the beginning,
Okay.
and how many are here, and the rate at which they're coming in and falling out.
Okay, in Washington State, there were probably over 1,250 producer processors that were approved, but a lot of them weren't in business. Maybe 1,000 of those were actually doing revenue. But now, firms are dropping out, especially producers and producer processors, as prices come down, because it's hard to maintain, it's hard to compete, which goes back to the analogy of oil as a commodity and how the big producer processors for oil worked. And it's interesting because the oil markets are still split up as producers and processors. Some people process barrels of oil, and if I produce it, that's how that works. So more companies are coming in on the processing side for cannabis than production, which is a very interesting thing because the costs are cheaper, but they're different.
Right.
And the expertise is different, just like my buddy down in California.
Right.
So definitely prices have come down. It has affected adversely the producer processor market, frankly the retail market, because if they're spending $4 on a price of a gram on a wholesale level, that's being generous, and they're not able to make that $4,
Right.
then their margins go up, but the costs are still the same. Or their margins go down, but the costs are still the same.
Okay.
With the oil company again, oil, everybody thinks gasoline, but that's not true. That's not entirely true.
Plastics.
My phone is made with some oil. The plastic bags that we all try not to use is made with a version of oil. And the recycling material, if oil goes above $50 a barrel, for example, that has a value. If it goes under that, people dump them away. Everything that we use has oil in it, unfortunately. But gets back to the commodity. In marijuana, same thing. People have the flower is the commodity. Everything else is part of that same commodity, but it's different because you can charge a higher price for it.
Okay, all right, Tony, one of the things that I do want to talk to you about before I let you go is one of the things about Northwest Pearl that gets me really excited, and I'm sure you already know where I'm going, and it's straight to your rosin. Can you tell my viewers, first of all, what rosin is, why it makes it special, and what Northwest Pearl does for the marketplace?
I'm Googling right now because you're asking me that question, right? Rosin is solventless, it's number one. And so there are no chemicals, solvents, nothing. What you see is what you get, but that's not true at all because we take it through a very special process and we take time in making it. And when people see our rosin, it's just amazing. So I have some right now in front of me. And as soon as you open it up, you get this whole burst of smell.
Terpenes, just hit you in the face.
Yeah, hit you.
With oil. I can smell it right here.
I know it. And that one is something that Billy did.
This is amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. So a couple of our new strains, Larry Bird and Dosey Doe, and put them together, and it is just beautiful. I haven't tried this. I just left the warehouse, and he did this yesterday, and it's just amazing. So I had a store. We dropped off some rosin yesterday. They called me last night. Tony, we're out, and I was like, okay, great. We know what we have, but we just don't have the capacity to produce as much as we want. But I tell you, people love the rosin. And the rosin is what we use for our Jeffrey, and our Jeffrey is our premier product.
Right.
And since we have all new strains, our newer strains coming out that we took time to produce, it's pretty exciting for us right now.
Right. It is really exciting.
Yeah, you're just excited.
I am excited. One of the important things for me about rosin, not only the solventless aspect, but the small batch. There's a million different products out there on the shelf at a retail store that you can get for $25 a gram, even $12 a gram. I mean, there's BHO, PHO, you name it. There's any kind of dabs out there at an affordable price point. But as a consumer, it's the difference between, you know.
Can I tell you one other thing? So when I made a specific point. I was so surprised that we don't sell rosin to just anybody. And the reason is we want to make sure people store it correctly.
Right.
And so I went to the store that sold out, and I asked them who your customer base was, and it surprised me. They were older people, and in my head I'm thinking, oh, they're younger folks that just like oil.
Right.
But no, they're older people that want a clean product, I should say, and cost isn't really the issue for them.
Right.
It's quality and solventless.
Yep. And that's where I was going. You can go in there and you can buy a 16 pack of Coors Light with a $12 a gram shatter, right?
No.
No, you don't. You want some Old Vines by Woodward Canyon, I know, and that shit is pricey. So, but it's handcrafted, small batches. Thank you for joining me.
Baby,
It's always
happy
a pleasure.
420.
Oh, happy 420.
Hey!